Welcome to Jared Scott Outdoors, your source in the field for local outdoor news. This week on Jared Scott Outdoors, we're back out to do some ice fishing. Now I've got Kate, I've got Nathan, and we're here on Henry's Lake. Of course, Henry's Lake is a very famous fishery here in Idaho. And partly, well, a really big part is because you can catch some giant fish here. 10, 11, 12 pound kind of hybrid fish, 30 plus inches. So there's some big trout in here to be caught. And of course, that's why a lot of people come up here. And so we're joining the crowds. We're coming up. We're hoping to catch a big one, and we're going to see what happens. So this year's ice fishing at Henry's actually started several weeks ago. You may recall that we had a very rare cold snap in October that actually iced up Henry's a lot sooner than normal. Typically, Henry's becomes fishable on the ice around Thanksgiving, but this year people were fishing the lake the 1st of November. Well, I wanted to take advantage of the early ice as well, and so I took my sons, Nathan and Cade, out on what looked to be a great day for fishing. The weather was perfect, it wasn't very cold, and it was a beautiful day, but would there be fish? We knew right where we wanted to fish today, and so we headed out to a spot that had been recommended by a friend as a pretty good area. The one thing we didn't count on was how slick the ice was. This early in the season there was no snow, so the lake was just a big ice skating rink. In fact, I could hardly keep my feet under me when drilling the holes. Well, I think we got here just about the right time. You know, Henry's is known to have that early bite, the first couple hours of daylight. And I didn't want to waste time getting ready during the daylight, so we got here with about a half hour of dark. And we just about got our holes done, and it's starting to get light enough we can see pretty good. So I'm thinking we hit it about right. But Henry's always has just an early morning bite if there's going to be a bite. And so we didn't want to waste any of that time messing around. We want to be ready. So a couple more holes, we'll get the poles in the water and see what's going to happen. Crossing our fingers that we have a bite, that we can get a handful of fish, because nothing like a big old Henry's lake trout. As I was getting the holes drilled, Nathan was baiting up the poles. Today we'd be using a pretty popular bait here at Henry's, jigs tipped with sucker meat. As recommended, we stayed pretty close to shore, not because of the ice, but that was where the spot the fishing should be good. And it appeared that past fishermen liked this area as well, as there were lots of other older holes drilled in the ice. So we figured we were in the right spot. I was actually quite surprised that there was very few other fishermen today. Only one other group even came on the north side of the lake, but I wasn't complaining. So we had all our bait in the water well before sunup. In fact, we were able to enjoy quite a beautiful sunrise there on the lake. However, that was only because we weren't busy catching fish. I thought we had timed it perfectly to be there for that early morning bite. And we did have a few bites, but not much. In general, it was just all quiet on the lake, and our bait wasn't getting touched. We hung with it though, assuming the bite would eventually come.
Get it?
Yep.
Hey! What do we got, Cade?
A big trout.
Hopefully a big trout.
Some.
Oh! Looks nice.
Yeah.
You can get him? Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Nice, buddy.
first fish of the day.
Yeah.
All right, so there is a classic Henry's Lake trout right there. Cade, first fish of the day, what do you think?
Pretty big.
Pretty big, yep. And this actually is probably even on that little bit small side for Henry's Lake. So looks like a cutthroat here. We're gonna actually drop this one back in. But good start to the day. Hopefully we can get a few more. We've had a few nibbles, but hasn't been super hot. So we'll see if it picks up. Okay, that was a start, but it turned out it was also an end. From that point on, we couldn't seem to pick up anything. We had multiple jig colors, some lines just on their own while we jigged others, but it didn't seem to matter. We just couldn't get any interest from the fish. So this one fish kind of day wasn't new to us. The last time I went fishing on Henry's was very similar. Well, it's now 10 o'clock, so we've been here 3 hours, and in 3 hours we caught one fish. So obviously not what we were hoping for. However, when I come to Henry's, it seems to be what goes on. Now there's another group that came out, and they went quite a ways away from us, and we could hear them hooting and hollering and catching quite a few fish early on. So the fish are here, we just didn't have the right spot. It appears to have died down where they're at as well now, as it typically does here at Henry's. So you win some, you lose some.
It was the previous year that we got out early in the ice fishing season around Thanksgiving. I was excited because it was the first time that I had made it on the ice at Henry's not too long after it became fishable. So I naturally assumed fishing would be great. I even talked my brother, who was visiting, into heading out with me with his kids.
Yeah, we're about 4 inches.
We did a test hole before getting too far onto the ice, and finding that it was good, we continued on out. On this day, we were fishing near the hatchery, one of the main places people seem to fish at Henry's. Being early, there wasn't snow on the ice this time either, but the ice wasn't as slick as this year's trip. As before, we made sure to be there early, but that didn't seem to help. It was just another very slow day on the lake. We did get a few bites, and Luke finally hooked into our first fish, proving that it wasn't totally in vain.
Fish on!
It's a good fish. Those colors.
Gotta get his head up.
Come on, come here. Oh, don't lose him.
Yes! Well, it's been really slow going, just a couple of bites at the very beginning and then nothing. But it's a nice fish.
Pretty.
Unfortunately, this was just another one and done. No matter how much we wanted it, we just couldn't seem to get another bite. So one more day ended with only one fish on the ice. This is footage I never used on an episode because I just didn't have enough to do anything with. Until now.
All right, we are back out here at Henry's Lake. As you can tell, or you might be able to tell, it's quite a bit colder. I've got Kate here, Nathan behind the camera. It is almost New Year's Eve. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, so Henry's Lake is only open for a couple more days. We decided to give it one more try. There's a lot of people that have had some pretty good luck and caught some nice fish. And as you've seen, we've only caught one fish last 2 times I've come here. And so we decided to give it one more try, see if we can actually pull a handful of fish through the ice. And of course, we picked one of the coldest days of the year so far to do that, but you got to do it before the season closes. Let's see what happens.
As mentioned, it was a bit colder. Well, it was a lot colder. Somewhere around -10 degrees when we pulled up. As before, we got there early enough to have all our gear out by sunrise. As cold as it was, we brought up a shelter and a heater. There was no question that some heat would be needed before the end of the morning. Unfortunately, the bite seemed to be the same as before, non-existent. It was probably a good half hour after all the poles were out without a single nibble before one line finally got a tap. Nathan was quick to get on it. Setting the hook, all he felt was a brief tug and then nothing.
You have one?
Yeah. Not anymore.
Oh,
The
get a
wheels
bit.
aren't working. I can't keep it tight enough.
Oh, is he back on?
It was. I have to just
Oh, there he is. He's back. Oh, nice fish too. There you go.
Classic Henry's trout, 18-inch cutthroat.
Get him back in. Not that your hands are cold or anything.
Oh, goodness, it's cold.
We were able to keep our hands fairly warm until you got them wet from holding and unhooking a fish. Then it seemed to be instant pain.
When it's -10 or -15, it gets really cold when you're dealing with fish. So it's nice when we have a towel and heater to at least try to warm back up.
With a slow bite, there was no reason to leave poles unused. Since you can legally use 5 poles per fisherman in most places in Idaho, we figured we may as well have all 10 of ours out in the water. Meanwhile, Nathan kept the 10 occupied and gave a little action to the 2 lines there. But even with some jigging, he wasn't getting any takers. It was actually the same pole that Nathan got his fish on that finally got the next bite. Cade was close by, so he got ready.
You got it? Okay. Now a reel. Still there?
Yep.
How big is he? Oh, he's a nice one. Okay, slow. He's a good one. Just kind of ease him up if you can. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it did like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty fish. Look at that.
Woo! A lot better. Dude. Another fish caught.
Like lots of families, you have lots of poles, and this is a kind of like a Mickey Mouse looking pole. So we'll see if I can get a bite off the Mickey Mouse pole. I think it's there, just light. No, it was there, but I just broke off. We're at least getting some bites, but I'm pretty sure I just broke that. Yep, snapped right off. Darn it.
When I had a nibble on that Mickey Mouse pole again, I noticed behind me another pole nearly getting dragged into the hole. As hard as it was getting hit, I didn't get the hook set. While the bite wasn't hot, they seemed to be consistent today, and so it wasn't too long before another line was getting hit.
All right, my first fish. My first Henry's Lake fish in a long time. Always letting the kids catch them, and figure I'll catch one. Not that we've caught a lot over the years, but today has been a better day for us.
Oh, he's a nice one.
Beautiful fish. As you can see, just another beautiful classic Henry's Lake cutthroat here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get him off and get him back in, but today hasn't been too bad. Not too bad.
Just when the fishing was getting better, we had a bit of a slowdown. However, as cold as it was, you couldn't just sit tight and wait. One of us had to be making the rounds, clearing the ice out of the holes. When it's below zero, it doesn't take long at all to freeze right back up. And if you didn't clear it out, the line would freeze to the ice so you couldn't see those light bites.
All right, well, we found that we have to go clear out the holes of ice every like 5 minutes. It's kind of annoying, but because it's so cold, the ice will just keep freezing up.
It seemed like we were getting bites about every 15 minutes on average. The question was always whether or not we'd get a hook set.
We're not trying to yank it to the moon. Get it back down there. Keep it tight. Still got it?
Yep.
Once we tightened the drag down, Kate finally got this fish out. But as you can see and hear, my camera didn't like this cold weather.
There we are. All right. Hey, nice fish. Good job, Cade. Pretty fish. Took that same one that they like. That seems to be a favorite today. Probably 2 out of 3 fish on that.
Another nice big fish, but when I took the hook off, it just flopped into the hole.
Meanwhile, Nate was getting occasional bites in the tent. But so far, all he got in the end were tangled lines. He was, however, enjoying the heat inside.
All right, well, today's been a lot better than our last trip. We've caught a handful of more fish, and it's not too cold. It's actually warmed up quite a bit.
Back to that Mickey Mouse pole, it was getting another hit.
Yeah, just lift it up and feel. And when you get him, set it when you feel him. Get back down. Get away.
I got him.
Got it?
Yep.
Keep it tight. Yeah. Oh, nice, bud. Good job.
All right, well, he's a little one, but he's still fun to catch. So out of 2 pulls, almost everything has been caught on 2 spots. We're getting back in.
Good job. Yeah.
Woo!
As Nate kept hearing Cade catch fish out there in the cold, he decided to come out and join us. We did get another bite soon after, but it left once he got the pole in hand. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's fishing trip out here on Henry's Lake. As you saw, we had a couple trips in the past where it just did not work out. 1 fish each time. So we came back out, we gave it one last try before the season closed, and it turned out pretty good. We could only fish for a few hours. We only had half a day. And the fishing's been pretty just even all day long. You know, normally Henry's has that early morning bite, and this time it seemed to just kind of stay even. So if we had more time, I actually wouldn't mind being able to stay out here. But what do you guys think of today?
It was good.
Got a lot more fish.
A lot more fish and nice fish. We didn't catch those huge ones, but we caught the really nice classic Henry's Lake fish. So that's going to wrap up our fishing trip, and that's going to wrap up Henry's Lake fishing for us, where it closes in a couple days. You know, but there's a lot of other places. It doesn't matter if you're in Twin Falls, if you're in Pocatello, Idaho Falls, Island Park. There's a lot of lakes you can go out and take your kids out ice fishing, see if you can pull a fish through the ice. So tune in next week at the same time for another episode of Jared Scott Outdoors.